Your Creative Push, episode 138.
If you have something to contribute, I urge you to contribute it, because what a shame if it isn't passed on. You know, it's almost like you were never here.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and my guest today is Bobby Chiu. Bobby is the founder and creator of Imaginism Studios in Toronto, Canada. He presently does multimedia concept design, having created characters, creatures, and beasts for such blockbuster motion pictures as Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland and Men in Black 3. In addition, he is an avid supporter of his fellow artists, having lectured at various schools and studios around the world on how to stay creative and successful as an artist. And Bobby, thank you first of all for coming on the show. I really appreciate your take on creativity, and it's a real honor to have you on the show. I think that one of the best resources for people to find more about you initially is your YouTube channel, and it's like a red alert must subscribe for anybody who listens to this podcast and takes stuff from this podcast, because you have such valuable videos like 7 tips for the 21-year-old me, 5 steps for gaining followers, artist self-doubt, what great artists have in common, and 7 steps for independent artists, just to name a few. It's just like constant inspiration and help. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your YouTube channel and kind of how that got started.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Yeoman. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course.
You know, it's always a pleasure to connect with people with the same kinds of values and kind of like a mission statement as myself. And I feel like what you do with your podcasts, I've listened to a couple of them. They're great, you know, and I feel like, like we're meant to connect at some point or another.
Dude, man, thank you so much.
Absolutely. My YouTube channel, you know, it just kind of started because it was the beginning of YouTube. You know, I was like, wow, you could put videos online. So my very first video, YouTube was only like maybe 1 or 2 years old at the most, something like that. It's just a painting of a samurai or something like that, without any sound, you know, and then that became, you know, people had questions about paintings and things like that. And I had certain thoughts and things like that I wanted to almost journal in a way. And so I took to YouTube to do that, you know, just kind of sharing my thoughts and philosophies as I was starting my studio, and then just continued it on for years and years and years. And I don't know, maybe like close to 8-9 years later, you know, I continue to do these YouTube videos strictly just for the same reason as I started, you know, just to kind of spread the good knowledge that I found helpful throughout my career and try to just pass on the baton.
Yeah, well, obviously, I really appreciate that, because that, you know, that's kind of the mission of this podcast, is to not only inspire but to teach, you know, and to show lessons like that. And I love what you're saying about how you just kind of started, you know, you just started and did a video without sound of just painting, you know, or just creating. I think that's really good advice for people to just start. If something interests you, just start doing it. And you don't have to have like a plan of like, in 8 years, I want to be able to create videos that give tips on how to do so and so. Like, it's just, you know, just start, just create and see where it goes.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it's funny that you say that. It reminds me of like, not just one, but many conversations that I've had with many artists, either young artists or artists that are just trying to start pursuing art. And they say, oh, no, you know, I'm not ready for that class, or I'm not ready to study this just yet. I need to first accomplish this and accomplish that, and before I post my stuff online, you know, all these things where it's like, you know what? You would be far better off just doing it, just starting. You know, if you start when you feel you're absolutely ready, what's that saying? And then it's already too late, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I try to live by that as well.
Absolutely. So is there like a favorite video that you might have had that you've created recently, or a favorite tip from one of those videos?
One of my absolute favorite interviews is with an artistic hero of mine, Iain McCaig. You know, he designed Darth Maul, Queen Amidala. He worked on pretty much every one of my favorite big blockbuster movies. amazing, talented person, but also a very inspirational person, a very much a role model in my mind. And so that interview, the one with Iain McCaig, then there's another one where I do this kind of series of YouTube videos where I have these little plant people in my videos.
They're my favorite.
Just talking about thoughts and philosophies that I've thought about, that I feel that are important to me and have been important to me throughout my career. One of them being the morning motivation one. That's kind of like the one that I would point people to right now. It almost goes in stages where one video will be like my absolute favorite for a good while, and then it turns into another.
Well, that's good to keep having favorites that come up. My favorite, I watched a few of them, but the 7 tips for the 21-year-old me, I think is like a must watch for any younger artists, people that are maybe in college or even high school. It's just really valuable information for just how to not waste time and how to not like get too caught up in the self-doubt and like the holding things off. For sure. Yeah, the interesting thing about that one was that I would get so many comments and so many emails from people that were older, and they'd say, I'm 35, and actually this was really, really helpful for me. Because everybody goes through their journey at their own pace. So even though it says 21-year-old, I would definitely recommend just checking it out if you plan on being a serious artist, trying to pursue that high level of art. I think it could apply and it could be helpful. Absolutely, man. I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit about schoolism?
Yeah, absolutely. I live in Toronto, Canada. And when we started Imaginism Studios, our art studio, I would just be looking at these blogs. That's when blogs were really popular back then. And I would see all these blogs from all these people in California. And I would be like, how do I paint like that? How do I draw like that? Because I didn't learn that in school. When I got out of school, I didn't really feel like I was ready. And the world kind of told me I wasn't ready because I couldn't get a job. So something that I've learned after, and I'm sure you've discovered this as well, interviewing so many people, the top artists, when they are not given the knowledge that they're searching for, say they don't learn that in their class. They don't learn that in their school. They don't just complain about it and do nothing. They keep going and they keep searching for that great knowledge out there. And so that's what I did. I couldn't get that knowledge that I really wanted to get. All these people are in California. So I went to California. I went to San Diego Comic-Con, about 10 years ago now. On that trip, I met one of my favorite artists, Steven Silver, who's now one of my best buds. And I talked to him. I met him once before that, but I talked to him on this trip about Norman Rockwell's famous artist course. You know about this course, Youngman?
I don't.
It was like a course where you would sign up and you would get these textbooks in the mail, like snail mail. You would do the assignments, you'd read the lessons, you'd do the assignments, and then you would mail it back in. You would mail it back out to wherever it came from, and weeks later, you would get a response. You would get another piece of mail coming to you, and it had some tracing paper on it, and it had some sketches on it, and somebody's drawn over top of your assignment.
That's so cool.
It's one thing to read a book or to, see a video and try to follow the video and do the stuff. But it's another thing to have somebody take your stuff that you are still like wondering, how come it doesn't look like the thing on the screen? Right? And for somebody to go over top of that stuff and to tell you, this is where you went wrong. This is where you went right. Do more of this. Do more of that. Let me show you how. When somebody is able to do that for you, wow, the results change dramatically. And then if it's a person that you not just respect, because a lot of people respect teachers, but it's somebody that you really admire. That's what we're doing with schoolism. We are connecting these great artists with their fans that really admire their work and want to learn how they do things and what they think about and all that good stuff. giving them an opportunity to not just learn from their favorite artist, but to have their favorite artist draw over top, customizing the teaching towards their specific skill level is such a night and day difference than just regular school, because if you could imagine, you want to be a writer and you know that your script is going to Stephen King. How much harder are you going to try, right? The people that teach on schoolism are the ones that are working on Avengers or working on, that latest Disney movie, Zootopia or whatever the latest flick is. These are the people that are doing the things that you want to do. With schoolism, we help to connect you with those people.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really inspirational and totally, I think, right up a lot of people's alley. Steven Silver, he was actually on the show, episode 121, and yeah, you're right, very inspirational guy. I guess my question is, what can people expect then? How often can they get their assignments like drawn on or to be seen by their professor, their teacher, their inspiration?
Well, there's two different versions of the online version. There is the premium version, which is the one where we draw on top of your stuff. All the instructors will literally draw on top of your paintings. And which paintings, how many paintings, it would be every assignment that you hand in. And that doesn't even happen in college that costs tens of thousands of dollars. I used to teach in college. I had a class of like 20 some odd to 30 people. There would be no way that I could go over everybody's assignment every single class. But in schoolism, you do. That's what you're paying for. So that's the premium version. And then we have the other one, which is the subscription. And it's really great timing today that we are doing this interview, because today we have just launched the monthly version of the subscription. So before you had to pay for a whole entire year, now you can actually just start paying just $15 a month for education from, people like Steven Silver. Just all these amazing teachers that are at the top of their game. We don't want education to be something that you have to save up for or take out loans for or get a new mortgage on and be in debt for, years and years and years. Education should be something that helps you. It's an investment, and ideally it would be something that we don't even have to really think about, hopefully, right? Like knowledge should be accessible and affordable to everybody. And the thing that should really make the difference is how hard you work at your craft, not where do you live and, how much money you make and stuff like that. That determines, how much of that education should you get. That was the original mission behind schoolism and still is today. And so today we started this monthly thing where you can actually sign up right now, $15 per month, and you would get the first 7 days for free. So you could just try it out. Try it out, because I know it sounds like something that some people might feel it's too good to be true. But just try it out and tell me if it's true or not.
And that's schoolism.com.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, you're right, especially about the money thing. I mean, I'm still paying off, loans, and most of my friends are still paying off their, college tuition. And it's just like kind of this thing that you have to chip away at for the next 10, 20 years of your life, and it almost demotivates you to continue to try to learn, which, like we were talking about, is really important to continue, as things change, to continue to hone your craft and to continue to get excited about it. So that's why I really love schoolism. I love the model of it, and I think it's really important to check it out, because you do need to keep educating yourself and continue to get inspired by the people that are teaching you. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, and one thing that I would just kind of, advise everybody out there is that common sense is not always right. When the common sense is to have slaves to build your stuff, that's not right, and if the common sense is to pay $100,000 for education and investment in your future that will take you 15, 20 years to repay, that doesn't make any sense either.
It doesn't make any sense, especially if it, like you said, and that also we were talking about this beforehand. For me, they didn't equip me very well for a computer science degree, I got the degree, but it didn't equip me for a job. I even got laughed at a job interview, because I didn't know some basic questions, because the courses for what they were asking about were never offered in my 4 years, so it's why pay for something like that when you can, pick and choose what you want to learn about at something like schoolism.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? A lot of the 30-year-old listeners out there can definitely relate to this. And some people that are already in school still, right now, can relate to this. In the very beginning, it was when I was in school, we had 3 computers for 90 some odd people. Right? None of the teachers knew how to do digital painting at the time. Now, how does that even make sense when that is the very obvious shift that's happening? And a lot of people would have also experienced things like teachers or schools saying that were against digital painting. And that doesn't make any sense either. So not only are you spending a lot of money, but you're also being guided in the wrong direction, which is scary. That now becomes scary. Now, of course, there are many awesome teachers out there. I want to say that, I've definitely met a lot of really great teachers, but as a whole, I would say our educational system globally hasn't been the best, and it has a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, aside from that,
yes, let's cheer this up a bit.
did you? Well, maybe not, because I was wondering, do you have any other things that resistances that maybe hold you back from being a creative person every day and actually getting all the different things that you do, getting it all done?
All throughout my life, Youngman. So I don't know how much time we have. I could give you a little story to illustrate it. So I always loved drawing. I loved drawing before I could speak. I loved drawing. I was maybe 2 years old, something like that. My mom walked into the room, saw that I was drawing on the walls. Instead of yelling at me or anything, she just said, "Okay, hold on a second." And she took the, old computer paper that had the perforated edges and is all connected.
Oh, yeah.
And she would tape it up all along the bottom of the room, and then gave me my crayons and said, "Okay, now go. Now draw on the walls." And that was the kind of mom that I have, right? And so she's wonderful, very artistic herself, and I expressed, I want to be an artist. My parents, they're like, Bobby, art is great. Your art is great as a hobby. Become a business person, become a lawyer, whatever it might be, something that is more quote unquote secure, right? So I listened to them. I went to business school, and so first time I wanted to be an artist, I got a no, right? Went to business school, hated it, or not hated it, but just wasn't connecting with it. Within a few days, I was drawing heavily elaborate illustrations in the margin of my notebook. After a couple more days, the notes were in the margin, and the rest of the page were heavy, elaborated illustrations. I was bringing watercolor to accounting class, and no wonder I failed every exam. I only went to one exam. I went to accounting, and I brought pastels. And in my multiple choice exam, I painted a cat, and right? I wish I kept that. But then what happened was, my mom gets the report card, and she sees the report card. It says all E's. And she's like, "Okay, Bobby, I don't really understand this report card. Does E mean excellent?"
Excellent.
And I was like, "No, Mom, I failed everything." And she said, "Oh, okay, well, I hope you know what you're doing, because it looks like you're going to go to art school." And I said, "Heck yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to apply for the hardest art school I can find," which around my area is this college called Sheridan College. So I applied for their toughest program, which is animation. At that time, it was entry was about 7%, right? You had to hand in a portfolio, then you had to do a live drawing test, and then you were in. So I handed in my portfolio. Did I get in? No, I didn't get in. Right. So I applied for the much simpler program to get in, you didn't really need a portfolio. You just needed 70% average or higher. So, got into that. But they did take the top 5% and they let you go straight into the animation test without handing in a portfolio. So that's what I did. I busted my butt for a year, got pretty good, got it within that 5%, got into the live test. In the live test, they tell you, look to your left, look to your right. Most likely, only one of you is going to make it. It's like, wow, okay.
Whoa.
Did the test, got in, thank goodness. Worked my butt off and graduated amongst the top of my class. And then could I get a job? No, I couldn't get a job. Right? So I went back to my old job, which was designing toys for Thinkway Toys, and then applied for computer animation the next year, because that was the ultimate goal. Computer animation, this whole new field where it's super high in demand. Took animation, didn't like animation. Finished the course, at the top of my class again. Could I get a job then? No, I couldn't get a job. Right? So then I did get a job in a television studio, but my position was called data manager. What do you draw when you're data manager, Bobby? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
You just shift files around. And so I was doing freelance, drawing every, spare second I had. And I started building up my freelance. It wasn't amazing, but there were little jobs I could do and really busting my hump, but there was not very much traction. And so it's like the whole world was telling me no now. And so I emailed a couple of my favorite artists. One was Dean Yeagle. The other one is our buddy Steven Silver, right? I didn't know him at the time. So I emailed both of them and just said, you're my favorite artists. I'm trying to be an artist. I am trying really hard, but nothing is, it's not gelling yet. I'm not getting any traction yet with my career. I'm kind of starting to doubt myself now. If you could just tell me if I'm wasting my time or not, I will absolutely be okay if you say that I am. I just want an honest answer. Would you be able to respond? And Dean Yeagle responded with a very nice email. And then Steven Silver responded by saying, give me your phone number. I want to call you. That was it. There was no Skype at the time. And it's a long distance. So I was like, yeah, sure. I gave him my email. Did he call? No, he didn't call. So I went back to work, right? And worked a whole bunch until I couldn't stand it any longer. Eventually, I said, okay, I'm going to take that leap. I'm going to go freelance full time now. And I quit my job. That day, I went home and I tried to turn on my computer to do some freelance work. And then I just hear work. It wouldn't turn on. My hard drive, you know what that sound is. Your hard drive is physically broken. It's not turning properly. So back then it was like writable DVDs for $60 a pop, around my place, which meant there's no backing up anything. It's a writable DVD, Youngman. It's not a rewritable DVD. You can only write it one time. So obviously I couldn't afford that. I lost everything. The only thing that I had left of my portfolio was online, these really small, not so good res paintings. This was the day that I quit my job. You got to understand, anybody that goes through that is going to question fate. What is fate trying to tell me at this point, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people could take it as, if fate's trying to tell you, get your job back. This isn't for you. But thank goodness that I went through so many rejections and so many no's in the very beginning, because at that point, that's when I realized, you know what? Life has been testing me all this time. I thought life was just being mean to me by always giving me these no's all the time, but it was actually making me stronger by being able to take no's and still pursuing that thing I want to pursue. Right? So dusted myself off and go, okay, this is life's test. And the way to pass this test is just to stay positive and keep moving forward. And I kid you not, that exact moment when I started thinking that, that's when the phone rang. Who was on the other side? It was Steven Silver.
That's so cool.
Right? And Steven started talking to me and it's like, yeah, I got your letter and this and that, or your email. And, you know, I saw your stuff and your stuff's pretty good, but it's more of what you wrote in your email that I wanted to connect with you. I want to talk with you. I want to tell you that's your attitude that's going to bring you your success, your habits, your attitude, your beliefs that will bring you your success. And, you're on your way. Just keep going. Stay on the path. Stay on the trail and you cannot fail. And then I just kept going. And towards the end of that conversation, I said to Steven, I said, you know, and this is a long distance call before Skype. It must have cost him a good penny. And, you know, I said to him, you know what? This call today changed my life. I want you to know that, you know, how can I ever repay you? And he said to me, well, when it comes to a point in your life when you can give back to somebody else, give back to somebody else and we'll call it even. That's Steven Silver, you know. Wow. How amazing was that? So not only did he help me with my career and get me kind of motivated, kept me going, he's also a good reason of why I put myself on this path of sharing knowledge. Right? Whatever helpful knowledge I have, give it out there to the world. And a big reason is because of Steven Silver.
Wow. I want to like cry after that story. It's beautiful. And you know, I love when like synchronistic things like that happen. And I think you said it, during the story, but like, it is that kind of mental mindset. And just like Steven told you, it's all about your mindset and staying on the path, no matter, what hurdles like life throws in front of you. And no matter how hard it seems, if you really want something, you just have to keep going for it. And like you said, like the giving back is so important too. So I really appreciate that story. Now that you are, you know, you've quote made it, you know, now that you're kind of past those big hurdles, are there any things like on a daily basis that hold you back from being an artist? Yeah,
that's a really good question. Schoolism actually holds me back a little bit, you know, because I'm running schoolism. You know, I have to make sure that everything's going okay. I want to get new teachers. I want to, you know, do these workshops around the world. And so that takes out time, you know, but I still work on movies. I still work on cool projects. You know, I do a lot of work in general. So I make sure like I fit that in. But yeah, the whole running the business thing can stop me from, you know, pursuing as much art as I'd like. But at the same time, you know, I kind of see it like this, Youngman. Art is the most magical, most amazing thing, the most amazing conversation that we've been having amongst human beings for like millennia, right? Like, yeah, it starts off however it started off, maybe as caveman drawings, maybe as something else, I don't know. But then somebody discovers something like perspective, right? And they join in on the conversation and go, hey, check out perspective. And then people are like, oh, that was really cool. How does that work? And then they teach, you know, they contribute to this conversation of art. And then everybody's like, oh, wow, cool. Hey, check out that new person that just learned what you learned. And now this person's talking about 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective. And you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I'm learning from that person now. And so on and so forth. And so anyways, this conversation has been happening for such a long time. This amazing conversation before our ancestors, you know, to be able to contribute to this conversation, to add some more knowledge into this great life lesson or whatever you want to call it. It's an honor. You know, it's a privilege and it's an honor. It's definitely not a time to be selfish. You know, if you're able to contribute in what you've learned so that you can help somebody else advance what they're learning, it'll come back to you. And not just that, I feel like it's our amazing opportunity to become a part of history. And if you think about the things that we've lived through, I don't know how old you are, Youngman, but, you know, I'm in my 30s, almost in my 40s, you know, so I've lived through the birth of the internet, digital painting, you know, CG, you know, all these amazing things. if you have something to contribute, I urge you to contribute it, because what a shame if it isn't passed on. You know, it's almost like you were never here. That's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not only like art in general and creative pursuits in general. It's like this thing that humans create almost like to the side of us, you know. It's like a way to kind of mark down what's happening and what we're thinking about and how we see the world in ways that, you know, you can't necessarily describe or figure out in other ways. And yeah, it's doing it yourself, but it's also helping others to pursue it themselves, because I do think that, like you said, to contribute to that it feels right, and it's also like a necessity. It's like, I think our jobs as human beings to do that, to contribute in that way, to put ourselves out there in whatever kind of creative way our brains think, you know, and to get ourselves out there. I think it's like a responsibility. So if you can help other people to do that and to teach them what you know, I think that's like pretty much, I mean, what other fulfillment do you need?
Yes, and it's not like it's keeping me away from my art, so I can't do art, you know. Mm-hmm. It is in a sense, because I'm organizing these things and all that stuff, but I'm also at the same time, I'm collecting knowledge. I'm collecting like the best knowledge in the world. So when it's time for my art again, I got all this stuff I can learn, you know. And it's also kind of like if I said, oh, my family keeps me away from doing art. You know, kind of, but you know, it's all about that balance, right? And as we get older, that word balance just becomes more and more important to us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can relate to what you're saying about schoolism so profoundly, because the podcast is definitely holding me back from doing writing. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I also found this new thing that really fulfills me almost more, because when I was writing, it was like, it's not selfish, but I was writing about, you know, the random things that happen in my day and trying to put a creative spin on it. And like at the end of the day, like, what does that really contribute? And now I found this podcast, even though it's taking up a lot of time and taking up a lot of that time, I feel like it is definitely much more worthwhile, and it makes me feel full as like a human being, and it's like the thing that I want to do now, you know? So it's like, I think it's okay to have things hold you back if it's still contributing in some way.
Definitely. Great things take time. Great things will make you feel like, oh, you're getting held back as you see all these weeds grow super quick. You're this little acorn, you know, trying to grow. 25 years from now, those weeds and the weeds' children, they'll all be dead. You're going to be this beautiful giant tree.
I love that. I love that analogy. What's your fascination with like plants, little plants?
I don't know, but
I love it.
You know, I like nature in general. It's fascinating. You know, a lot of the stuff on this planet, it doesn't even look real. Like some of the stuff, if I handed it in for a movie, people would be like, that's not realistic. So,
yeah, it's very psychedelic. Dude, Bobby, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're running out of time though, so it's time for the final push. And this is where I ask you to reach to the microphone and grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you've already inspired today, and I bet there's a lot of them, and just give them your best advice and really push them to pursue their creative passions.
So I'm gonna grab you by the shoulder here, and I'm gonna tell you that I used to think, you know, could I be an artist? Could I paint something to that level that I see on the internet? And I can tell you without a doubt, you can. You can, because I wasn't even close to that level. And look at me now. I don't know. But it's all very much possible. So believe in yourself. And a lot of people, they say, yeah, believe in yourself. That's the key. You know, and it's almost overused. It's almost so overused that we kind of dismiss it. But this is why it makes sense. If I didn't think something would work, if I didn't ever believe I could become an artist, then what would I do every day? Versus, what would you do even when you fail, yet you believe that you can totally become an artist? You know, what do you think the results would be? What do you think would be the difference? So dream big. That would be the biggest thing. That's the most important thing I would say to people out there. You know, I used to have small dreams of I just wanted to work for any studio, sharpening pencils. It didn't matter. You know, if you don't hit those giant goals, you're still going to be in a much better place than sharpening somebody's pencils. You know, so do that. Be kind to your fellow artists. Be kind to your fellow people, not just because perhaps, you know, it's a good thing to do, but for the selfish people out there, you know, it will make others be kind to you as well. You know, it's a reciprocal thing. If you're constantly trying to take from others, you're going to attract people that want to take from you. And if you always are trying to give to others, some people will just take it and, you know, that's it. They won't give back, which is fine because you're going to meet a lot of people that will give back. Life is not like this one-man show. You need others to really get to your dream. Okay, so I guess those would be the things I would advise people to look out for.
Yeah, super important. And yeah, just touching on the last thing you said, it is important. We are all in this together, like we were saying before, and it's like this long stream of, since the first cave paintings, like we were talking about, you know, just from those people on, it's just like this constant journey of human beings, and to be a part of it is an honor. And I really appreciate what you're doing, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today, man, and for giving us that push.
I appreciate you as well, Youngman.
Thanks, man. And you can find Bobby on Instagram and YouTube, Digital Bobbert. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Digital Bobert.
Or you could just look up my name. You know, you'll find me pretty easily.
Cool. And we'll have all those links, including a link to schoolism.com, at our show notes page at yourcreativepush.com/Bobby or yourcreativepush.com/138. Bobby, thanks again, brother.
My pleasure.
Wow, that was awesome. And Bobby is dead on when he is talking about how art is this communication throughout the ages. It's this long journey of expression. And if you are an artist, if you are a creative person that's able to express yourself in an artistic way, then you're kind of a member of the club. I feel like everybody has the potential to express themselves in a certain way. Everybody has like an X-Men, like a secret power that they're able to express themselves with, and not everybody chooses to do it. And if you choose to do it, then you are part of like the club. You are part of this amazing journey of human communication, and you should really cherish that. You should really bring that out, and you should also be proud of it. You should try to talk about it whenever you can and not have it be like a secret hobby, you know? You should try to bring it out of other people as well. It's like you're an ambassador for the arts. And I think that you are kind of pinned with that responsibility. And like Bobby does with schoolism, I think that you should also pay it forward. You should also share your knowledge and try to help other people out. And, you know, one of my listeners, Aurora, reached out to me, suggested Bobby. I hadn't heard of him before. I checked out his stuff, his YouTube channel, totally inspired me. It was totally in line with what this podcast is all about, just in trying to inspire others and trying to pay it forward, like I was saying. And then finding out about schoolism made me like obsessed with this idea of, you know, instructors that are right there, drawing on top of your work, and really being a one-on-one motivation, because I never had that in school, and I paid a lot of money to go to school. And I think that Bobby is trying to do something that not a lot of people try to do. It's make a decent education affordable for people. And you can do it at your own pace, and you can do it with what you actually want to learn about and what you want to get better at. So definitely, I really highly suggest checking out Schoolism. It's super affordable now with that new $15 a month thing that he said that started today. So go check that out. You can get your first 7 days free, schoolism.com. So again, a huge thank you to Bobby, not only for coming on the show, but just for doing what he does. If you don't check out Schoolism, definitely check out his YouTube channel, check out his work. I guarantee that it is a perfect kind of addendum to this podcast. You will get so much out of it, especially if you are a visual artist. But that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you were inspired to go and get your work done. So go and get it done, and we will be here for you on Wednesday if you need the push again. Thank you so much for listening, Go and get some amazing work done, and we will see you next time. Bye. Never miss a push. Head to yourcreativepush.com/subscribe to find the easiest way for you to subscribe to the podcast.